Welcome to the seventh episode of Out of the Blue, the podcast, a platform dedicated to celebrating inspirational stories of people overcoming life-changing experiences who have found their way forward. I'm your host, Vernon West, and my co-host for today's episode is my daughter, Samantha West, who, along with being a graduate of AMDA, the American Musical and Dramatic Academy in Hollywood, California, is also a talented actress and performer. And I want to especially thank you, our listeners, for joining us today, giving us your precious time and attention, because we know just how valuable that is. In today's episode, we are honored to have Susan Goldberg, an accomplished and multi-talented musician, here to share with us her experience, strength, and hope after out of the blue, in the middle of a performance, her left hand suddenly became useless, and that she would soon learn was MS, or multiple sclerosis. Hi, Susan, and welcome to Out of the Blue.
It was the winter of 1989 into 90. Very much out of the blue. I suddenly started to just simply feel very weird. Like my arms felt like a marionette a little bit. And I was freelance typesetting while I was playing in various bands. And I was at work one day, and all of a sudden, like my hands wouldn't stay on the keyboard. They just kept falling. So I felt panicky inside, but I didn't really want to let anybody know what was going on. But I said I wasn't feeling well, and they sent me home.
I can only imagine how terrifying that was.
It was terrifying, and I just pretended everything was fine, but I had a stomach ache or something. And I got home, and I didn't tell many people. And this went on for about almost a week.
Yeah.
I got myself to Provincetown, where my girlfriend of 3 years was living. And, I went to everybody I knew, it was that time, acupuncturist and chiropractor and everything. And they all were like, "Oh, you're fine. You're fine."
Yeah.
It's stress.
Ugh, that's a big
I
one.
didn't really have that much stress in my life at the time, except for, living a couple hundred miles away, 300 miles away from the person I was with, but that really wasn't stressful. It was kind of fun. And so I got from New York to Provincetown, and we went to see a movie, just something normal.
Right.
And I went to get out of the car after we got home, and I could only move like this side of my body.
Oh.
Like everything else felt like a sack of cement was holding it down. We were like in the driveway of this little apartment that she had that I eventually moved into. And, we kind of I dragged Quasimodo style myself to the apartment. And we called one of our best friends, who's a doctor. In fact, she's still my best friend. And we described what was going on, and she did kind of a makeshift, neurological test.
Yeah.
She lived in California. I was calling her from Provincetown.
Yeah.
And
that's long distance mentoring there.
Yeah.
Doctoring.
Every time my partner at the time, Eileen, described what was happening, all Kim kept saying was, "This isn't good."
Yeah, that's what you do say. Yeah. I had that similar thing with my leg. It felt like a block of cement, my whole right side. So I know that you described it perfectly. It feels like cement.
Just lead weight, right?
Yeah,
it's like dead weight. It's a very strange feeling, because when you describe paralysis to somebody, they think numb or tingly.
Mm.
This just felt like gravity was sucking me into the ground. But I mean, I was young enough and lucky enough to find some of this comical.
It's good though, right? Sense of
No, it
humor
was
helps.
good. I needed the endorphins to keep me from panicking.
True. I
And
laugh, I feel better.
anyway, our doctor friend had gone to school with somebody who was a doctor in Boston. So she called her, and that woman called me. I talked to her for a while, and she went to school with someone at Norwood Hospital who was a neurologist. So she said, just get her to Norwood Hospital, doctor, whatever his name was. I honestly can't remember his name now. Um, well, he'll know you're coming. So
Right.
that's what we did. And it was just lucky. I don't know it because he got me in. It's Norwood Hospital. I would never have gone to Norwood Hospital. It's
Right,
just
right.
like off of 128 around there.
Yeah, I know it. I know Norwood.
Yeah. So,
Shortened from the word North Woods, by the way.
oh really?
Yeah,
Oh well, that makes sense.
yeah.
We're so lazy in New England, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to say
Yeah.
the R
No,
letter.
it's a Norwood. No.
Northwood. Well, I ended up in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And they did all kinds of tests until, uh, MS is a disease of like in order to diagnose it, you have to eliminate things because
Right.
there's not one special test for it.
Hmm.
There is one, but it rarely shows anything because, uh, it could go either way. That's the spinal tap, which is kind of
Oh,
ironic, isn't it?
right.
And so they did all the tests that eliminated Lyme's, AIDS, everything. They did all these tests. They did see some little peanut shaped thing, so they weren't sure if it was a tumor or what it was. It could have been a brain tumor. So we were like, okay, great. It could have been a brain tumor. But then they gave me the spinal tap and they saw in my spinal fluid these little bands. And if those show up, that is a sign. And I don't know what they are or what they
Right,
mean,
right.
but that was the deciding factor.
Yeah.
That
That,
it took several days to figure it out, but it it looked like MS. And
oh,
then they did a bunch of other MRIs and saw that I had other scars on nerve endings that were not exacerbated, but that means I had been developing it for a while. And that's
gotcha.
kind of how it happens. Your T cells, helper T cells, just think that your nerve endings are a foreign object and they just attack
Attack
it.
it. Yep.
So you get these scars and they interrupt the messages, what you're trying to do. Like, I want to lift my hand like this, and it would not work. So that was how I found out it was MS. And it was
And then
I
it
don't
hits you like hit you when you find out that diagnosis. How'd that feel? Like
well,
it's gonna be
I didn't really know much about it because my partner actually at the time was just starting to develop an illness that would kill her eventually.
what was
She
it called?
died. She was gonna go into kidney failure.
Oh boy.
And that's 20 years of what our life was like.
Right.
And she died 20 years ago, actually, this year.
Wow.
So it was, a long time ago. But so I hadn't really been noticing anything wrong with myself. But then on retrospect, of course, there were a few moments here and there within the past year of that I thought, oh, well, maybe that's what that was, just a strange sensation or this and that. But I didn't pay attention because they went away, you
You
know.
don't.
Then I had to figure out what I was going to do because after this whole thing, well, they put me on prednisone and methylprednisone, like the big prednisone, to keep my
Mm-hmm.
immune system from attacking me. So after a few days of starting, like that was a couple of weeks on that. So I was starting to be able to move a finger, which was great. And then, little by little, things started to come back slowly. I mean, I was still kind of quasimodoing myself around the hospital room, but clearly it was coming back because of the prednisone. It was helping.
Definitely. Yeah.
So after it was safe for me to leave the hospital, then the question was, well, what do I do now? I can't live in New York. I can't typeset. I didn't really have my left hand anymore. I couldn't play. I couldn't typeset. I couldn't get up and down the stairs of the subway to go anywhere.
Right.
So the summer was, at this point, it was months. And the summer was approaching. So um, I was going to go to Provincetown anyway, because that's where I worked every summer. And I ended up going and moving in with my partner, with Eileen. And, I still couldn't do much. But that was the comical part because, like, Eileen would come home and find all drawers open just this much, but that was so that I could open it with
Right,
one
right.
hand.
You got to
And
leave a
she
little
just kept
gap.
shutting the drawers, and I was like, no, don't do that. And I was trying to like wrap a present for her, and I would just, it was like Artie Johnson on Laughing. I would just like, poof,
Right.
like sitting on the floor and just,
No, it's
um,
funny that you can make humor out of it, but all this time that I got to relate to this, that anytime I feel any kind of symptom that I have great, thank God, or my higher power, or out of the blue, whoever, I have no longer as numb as that leg isn't, it doesn't feel like a cement block anymore.
yeah,
It's been gradually coming back, but every time I have to try to move it a little bit, and I just can't move my toes yet, for example,
yeah,
that just, sometimes it can really get to me. And
yeah,
then,
of course.
a little thing like that, you think, why is this happening? Do you get that feeling like, why me? Why did this happen
You
to me?
know, I don't know why I didn't have that feeling. I think Eileen, you know, we were relatively new at the time, 3 years, sort of not living in the same state. So we were still pretty like,
Love,
explosive,
Yeah.
a lot of
So
love.
love, lots of love, well, long time love. And I was reading every single thing I could read about MS, which there wasn't that much at the time.
Right.
But I was making, I almost was going to start a big group, and my doctor was very clear. It's like, no, you have to take care of yourself first, and then you can start a helping group. But just try to,
Oh, I love it.
see,
I love that. I
yeah.
do love that.
I was kind of grateful for that because I realized later that that would have been a lot to take on while I
Right.
was not sure what my next 3 minutes was going to look like.
Exactly. I know the feeling from that one too, but
Oh
go
my
ahead.
God.
But you still
So,
have that, that drive was there though. I
oh
feel like
yeah.
that drive has something to do with your continuing story of recovery.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
going to
and
tell us because you're doing pretty damn good right now.
I am doing okay. I I had a major attack about 7 years ago, and that changed everything once again in the
Huh.
big way that it changed everything originally. Um, and in fact, that probably was the beginning of this entire part of my life, which included 5 bouts of COVID and every little infection or
Yep.
virus or bacteria. I have no immune system
I
now.
hear that.
I am not producing antigens. I just got that information this week from some tests because I finally had a doctor who, instead of shrugging his shoulders, sent me to an allergist slash immunologist. And they
Ah,
took these tests, and I just found out that my immunoglobulins are gone, like
yeah. Yeah.
zero.
Wow. Yeah.
This is right now is a whole beginning of another trajectory
Okay.
because I've been for 7 years, I've been on a very strong drug called Ocrevus, which is not what I was on for 20 years before that. And this is a disease modifier. It's one of the ones that works really good for people with MS, but that is it suppresses your immune system so much, and it happened, the pandemic happened, and now
Yep.
I have all of that, like long COVID, and it's
Yeah.
just insane. And to get a test back and see zero for some antigens, it's just crazy.
So
You know,
what, I got to tell you though, my observation is that I've been writing, you've said how lucky you were a few times. You said things about love a lot of times. I don't believe in luck, first of all. I think what I'm learning from Out of the Blue is that I know that we talk about things coming from out of the blue and nowhere, and they do. These bad things, I think, actually do come out of the blue.
mhm.
And they're there. But you know something? A lot of really good things come out of the blue too.
Oh,
And
yeah,
the people in your
definitely.
life to put you with that doctor in Norwood, right?
Yeah, right.
That was a beautiful thing.
Oh,
All this serendipity of
Dr.
love,
Silken. I just remembered his
Oh,
name.
Dr.
One
Silken.
brain cell.
Yeah, and he's talking, or
Yeah,
she's talking. Right? But I used to say I had got two brain cells left, and neither of them are talking to each other.
yeah. That's what
But
that's what it feels like sometimes. It
I
really
know, I
does.
know, I know. You sound like,
Yeah.
I gotta say, I always admire how you're always gigging, and I know you go through a lot to gig. And I saw you guys down in P-Town with Scream Along with Billy. Who Samantha, by the way, stole the T-shirt.
yeah,
She
I love
has
it.
Oh, you mean the one where we're both like,
Yes, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Cool.
I
I
do
wear
love
it all the time.
that.
Representing.
So now she gets to meet one of the Scream Along with Billy's on the T-shirt.
I know.
I'm
So
the
honored.
with.
Love it. So
But
cool.
I'm the anchor. Billy floats around. I'm the anchor. Yeah. Also, the one who transcribes and transposes everything. I have I don't know if you can see this. Those books, that's hundreds and hundreds of pages of music that I have transcribed, transposed,
Oh,
for
I
That's
know.
incredible
Because
amount of work.
my dad knows your backstory, but I don't, and I don't know if all the listeners do. It is in
oh
music and composed.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was a piano player for a
Okay.
long time, but um when you ask those questions, that list of questions,
Right, right.
have you recognized any other out of the blue things now that you've thought of things as out of the blue? This changing to bass was definitely an out of the blue moment. I I was a piano player. I got through college basically playing piano in my classes for people, like acting classes and scene study and vocal coaching and all of that. And going to auditions with people. And I had an audition service in Boston while I was still living there.
Nice.
When I went to New York, I found that I was like probably in the lower quarter echelon of abilities to read. My reading compared to these virtuosos who went to Juilliard and stuff, like they were the ones getting the rehearsal pianist jobs, not me.
Yeah,
So,
the sight reading is off the chart, right?
woo,
It's unbelievable.
yeah. So, I don't know what happened, but my best friend Karen, who we moved to New York together, she played guitar and sang, and we were always, she was my roommate, my first girlfriend. She still is my best friend, and we used to sit up all night and sing Beatles songs in our little horrible apartment in Southie while we were going to school. Anyway, she said one day, because when she was younger, she had short hair. She's left-handed, and she really did look like a female Paul McCartney. She was adorable.
Ooh.
And she said, I should have played bass. And all of a sudden I was like, ding, what? Of like, and an ex-boyfriend of mine had left a bass that I took with me to New York because I never saw him again. So I was like, took his bass, and it was a piece of shit. Is that okay?
Yes, of course.
Okay, it's a piece of shit. And I was starting to go to graduate school for something that I would eventually quit for because I was like, "Ugh." I didn't want to do it. I started playing in bands within the first year of playing bass. So I quit graduate school because the choice I made for my thesis was going to bore me to death.
What? Say it again?
The choice I made for my thesis in graduate school was going to bore me to death. So
Oh,
I
okay.
quit because I was already in two bands. And that's all I really wanted to do. And
This
I
is out in
never,
New York.
yeah. And it was like I never could really do that as a pianist because even though I was I was a rock and roll person, I grew up playing more theater cabaret-ish because my entire family, they were all singers and dancers, and that's the kind of music that I could play on the piano.
Right.
And but rock, it just didn't, I couldn't make the transition, but when I switched to bass, it was instant. And I found that having had played the piano all my life, like literally before I could walk,
Wow.
I understood music on a level that made it very easy to transition to bass.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's where I've been, and that was 83-ish. And so that's my background. I've been playing
So
ever
you did
since.
some Broadway things with bass, or what did you?
I've been playing a lot of musicals, but not on Broadway, no.
Oh, off Broadway or something? Or down to
I
the,
did one off Broadway thing, but the rest of it, I went right from piano to bass in bands, and they were
oh,
original bands. So I had three original bands that I was playing with in New York before I left. Um, One of them we did some touring. It was a trio, and I'm not gonna say her name out loud because I'm not giving any power to. It was a bad experience. I don't want to evoke it, but
yeah,
we had some success. I mean, it was one of those almost got signed things, and then it
yeah,
was
oh,
like,
yeah.
thank God I'm not spending the rest of my life with that person. And I've had another experience like that too, a whole other band, but this was after I moved back to Massachusetts and almost got signed. Nope. Which again, I'm much healthier for not having had to spend
Yeah.
my life
Ultimately,
toxic environments.
things happen for a reason, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
You
I
have
agree.
had wonderful look at you live playing music.
I
I
know.
mean, what could be better?
I mean, I never had any like uh, the kinds of ambitions that people wanted us to have. You must want to have an IRA and a house and stocks, and you want to have a really nice car. It's like, no, I'm happy if my car gets me to my gigs.
To
The
get you
only thing
there, right?
the only
Point
thing
A to
I
point
own
B.
is my stuff.
Yeah, the thing that I hear about this, you went through this really devastating, life-changing experience,
Hmm.
and I think you had all these frameworks of things in your life, the music, love, the things fundamental things like the the closely held beliefs, closely held fundamental beliefs you had in the life that you want to
Hmm.
have, kind of set you up for success against this out
Oh,
of the blue
against,
event. And I
yeah.
think that, I think when you put yourself in that position, don't you think it might even invite other beautiful out of the blue events? Like, how'd you get together with Billy?
Again, probably it's about an out of the blue experience as could happen.
Right? I knew it. I knew it.
Yeah. Well, I was in this band called Space Pussy, right? And we
Hell yeah.
played, in Boston, and we
I
played in New
remember that.
York. And
I want to see
the,
Space
the
Pussy.
what's that?
I want to see Space Pussy.
Well, you wouldn't be able to see us as we really were. Right now, what we are is a kind of a big human jukebox for drag queens who wish they were in rock bands.
Oh, okay. Well,
You
all right.
know, that's
That
kind of
sounds
what
like
it
a
is now.
be fun though.
Oh, it is fun. It's
Yeah.
absolutely fun. But
Yeah,
we
it's
were
well,
we wrote original music. We had a ton of it, but there was a lot of like because the rights and the this and the that and the managers and the people who wanted to just drag our asses all over the place without signing us yet.
It does
Sorry.
happen a lot too, that scenario
Yeah.
where
Oh,
they,
yeah. I know.
but it
Um,
doesn't, not necessarily, it's not necessarily not organic in a way. Sometimes they just want to feel out working with you,
yeah.
and
Yeah. And I'm sure that
and it's probably
that
good for the band as
terrified
well.
them.
I think it's sometimes better for the artist than you think.
Yeah.
Just jumping right into a contract, probably the last thing you want to do. So
Yeah.
you
I
really,
agree. Yeah.
really feel something authentic,
Yeah.
that this
Well,
person really supports what you're doing and everything else.
it's kind of a shame, but it's kind of like there wasn't a person in that band who didn't feel ill because it was a very toxic environment.
Yeah, that's
But
not good.
I met his the leader of the band was also writing musicals with this guy, Billy Huff, and
Mm.
he wanted to use us, not Billy, but the guy who was his friend who's running Space Pussy and everything, wanted to use us to play for his musical that he was writing, except that, well, he didn't realize how much it would cost and that he would really have to pay us, nightly. So we went into the studio to record all of this quasi original music for these musicals, and that's how I met Billy. He was working with the lead.
Right.
He's wrangled him, and I wrangled the band in terms of charts and keys and stuff. Anyway, so I met Billy. I saw his band. We played on the same bill at the Middle East, and
Oh yeah.
oh my God, because they all kept switching instruments and playing all this crazy music that they had written. And the only thing I said to him was, "You're ridiculously talented." And then his band, like they were in the process of breaking up. It was very strange. And I had just lost Eileen like a year or two before. And he got a job in P-Town playing in a piano bar, like rock and roll piano bar, not, you know.
Sure.
And then somebody else offered him something at a different bar, and he was like, "Well, how am I going to make this different than the one who's going to want to come see me like 4 nights a week doing the exact same thing?" So, um, I had just played a few gigs. Which was very difficult after Eileen passed away. I wasn't out there playing much, but I had just left this band because it was so awful. It was like a jazz with quotes around it. A lead singer
Oh,
who didn't know the words to, like any Tina Turner song, what? It was bad, and the drummer spit everything up, and I was
oh,
I was a miserable wretch. And then Billy asked me if I wanted to sit in with him, and I was like, "Well, what would I do? What would I play? I don't know anything about what you." He had switched from guitar to piano. He played the piano like it was a percussion instrument, which it kind of is.
it is.
And
It is, in fact.
yeah, it has little hammers.
Right.
And then I sat on my amp in the corner and just played along with him one night. And everybody seemed to love it because not because of what we were doing necessarily, but he is a performance artist, and he would go on these sort of stream of consciousness riffs,
Right.
and everybody was mesmerized because nobody was doing that. Nobody was
Right.
improving anything at that moment in Provincetown. So the manager said, "Do you want to play every week?" And yeah, sure. And within like a couple of weeks, she said, "Do you want to start on Fridays also?" So that was like, well, what are we gonna do? Like no one's gonna come see us twice a week. So that's when we started doing full albums,
Right.
start to
Which is
finish, just piano,
amazing.
bass, and stupid silliness. Like we did The Wall. That was our first. Pink Floyd's
Oh,
The Wall
really?
was our first. We decorated the place. I don't know. I think we covered the place in tinfoil or something. I don't remember.
That must have been wonderful. I think when I saw you guys, you did Bob Dylan when he
Oh,
went electric. I forget the name of the album.
oh, Nashville Skyline? No,
I,
no, it's
no,
before
no,
that.
yeah, he did
Blonde on
some
Blonde. Was
Blonde
it
on Blonde,
Blonde?
I think it was. I
Yeah,
think it was.
yeah.
And I think he did half the night with that and some more other stuff too. But it
Yeah,
was
well, it was
amazing.
always a 2-hour show. We started at 11, we ended at 1. And since the pandemic, everybody wanted us, no, you have to do it earlier. So now we start at like 9:30 or 10, and we still play till 1. And people who know us and love us, they're still working and can't come till
Right.
after work. So we're still, it worked better as a 2-hour show. It did.
Yeah.
But we still, I mean, this is our 19th season. I think, I don't know what we have. I mean, we have plenty left to do and say, but I was also 20 years younger then.
Right. It gets harder. It
It's
does get harder.
ridiculous. I'm so exhausted most of the time because of
Oh,
between the MS and the long COVID and this bacterial infection that
yeah.
won't let go.
But
It's
it's
just
something about this doing this of these vibrations that you're doing. The music is like a vibration. It's an uplifting
it is.
vibration of, and a lot of love gets put into it. Mainly
Yeah.
love. Like you can't really make music without some love.
Yeah.
Has to
And
be.
people love what we do because they come in and Billy speaks from his heart,
Does.
and he's very funny, and he's one of those crazy smart people.
Yes, he
Like I
is.
have a few friends who are like that. Like one of my friends is Michael Cunningham. He wrote The Hours, and he's like a Pulitzer Prize winning
Good. I
author.
know. I've heard of Michael Cunningham. Yes.
Yeah, he's amazing. He actually has come on the road a little bit with us and done some readings on stage at Joe's Pub in New York with us. It's a riot. And we've got this little handful, this little family of actors and writers who will occasionally come and do stuff with us. And then we'll do a higher concept show. Like when we reenacted Bob Altman's Nashville, that was insane.
Oh, that had
We
to be good.
rewrote it but we did all the music to it, and we had all these people in it. It was
Oh,
absolutely nuts. But yeah, these are the things that keep me afloat. Like if I didn't have this to do, I mean, I have other bands, and some of them are, they're mostly bar cover bands, whatever, or I get called for gigs. I love them, and I know all the people. I love the people, but this kind of thing keeps me buoyant when
Yeah.
I feel like maybe I don't have it anymore.
Yeah. That I can see what that, and that to me, it came out of the blue. So
Yeah.
what, ultimately, steering us back towards the theme of our show here
Uh-huh.
is these things that come from out of the blue, they seem to have some sort of a guidance to them. Like
Mm.
even getting MS,
Yeah.
it's like even when I got leukemia, it's like a kick in the ass they don't want. I don't think my higher power or the out of the blue deity, whatever it is, sending
Yeah.
us these beautiful things and sometimes terrifying things.
Mm.
I think that the essence of it is sort of like a higher intelligence, maybe, of something
Well, it's
that's
all of the
30,000 feet up.
teachable moments. They're all
What
teachable moments, right?
teachable moments.
You can't, I mean, you have a choice there. That's what I discovered. Because I know some people, you know, in my life that, when something came to them and happened to them, they just kind of crumbled under the weight of it. And this is without judgment, of course. I say this, but there's some people that just didn't have the resources and the people in their lives that could help them stay afloat while they found their way. And I was lucky enough to, like, when I realized that I had no idea what tomorrow had, if I even had a tomorrow, like every moment, of course, becomes like you got to show up for it. You have to show up
Yeah.
for it. So that's this stuff that I do, it can be aggravating, it can be, whatever. It's my joy, and that keeps me thinking that I still have a reason to be here.
That
I mean, I
too.
have lots of love in my life. I have extraordinary friends. I live in an extraordinary place. And I don't know that I would have stayed here if I don't know. I mean, I just ended up here because of Eileen. And then after she died, people were like, "You're going to go back to New York?" And it's like, I don't think so. I don't have a marketable skill that it will earn me like enough to pay 3 grand a month for an apartment in New York. And I'm not, the typesetting doesn't exist anymore. And I'm in like 6 bands. Why would I leave? You know,
Right.
it's
Really,
like I,
life is where you live it.
yeah,
You're living.
you bring it with you wherever you go. It's
That's
like,
it.
and some people go places and think it's going to change for them. Like they're going to suddenly be somebody different. And, you know, you know how they call that a geographic and
Yeah,
I have a lot of
geographical.
people around me in the program and they, in recovery programs and they all talk about that. And I know that like moving somewhere does not, you have to, you bring all your stuff wherever you go,
Right.
it's
Yep.
it's your
Wherever you go,
process
wherever you go, there you
where
are.
you are.
But
Yeah.
I love that teachable moment.
Yeah.
I think that that to me is a big takeaway for me from today's conversation. Because I got to say, I got up this morning, I'm thinking, I'm looking forward to this podcast and talking to you today with Samantha. But I said that's got me up. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for something that I was going to have a teachable moment, that's what this is. Every one of
Yeah.
these podcasts to me is a teachable moment. I am learning, and I learned so much from you. And I hope people that listen will learn so much. It's the resilience
Mm.
that comes from love of what you're doing. You know, being happy about the people you're with, doing what you
Yeah.
love. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. You have to surround yourself with people who, like if there are people in your life who you feel like just suck the air out of the room, narcissists or whatever, like you have to set up some boundaries, you
Yeah,
know,
you do.
and you have to find the people who are that you love and who love you back and who, you know, they don't they don't discourage you from, like I know people who are going into the arts and people around you know, would just be like, that's never going to happen for you. That kind of like,
Right.
I was never going to be a virtuoso at anything. But the only thing I know how to do, it's like I learned the language of music very young, playing piano, having people around me. I understood how music works very early, and I was very lucky because that has sustained me on every level, like emotionally and not that much financially because come on, it's the music
Well,
business, but
if you have you're eating, you
yeah,
got a
I'm
roof over your
obviously
head.
not starving.
Well, me either. Well, you got a roof. I always think, every night I go to bed, I say, all right, let me think of the things to be grateful for. First
Hmm.
of all, I'm breathing. That's a big one.
That's a big one.
Second one is the roof's not leaking. Well, I can go up.
Yeah.
We'll get someone to fix it if it is. But then, we got that, and then we got they just ate dinner. There was food.
Yeah, you know where the next clean glass of water you can get
Yeah, I mean,
is,
the littlest things you can be grateful for.
like
But I mean, I
90% of
think
the world.
the teachable moment that we're getting from our guest Susan Goldberg is a lot about loving, artists. Like we have people from all walks of life, so not everyone's an artist. But
Mhm.
sometimes I find people that are um, they're working as a computer guy or something like that. I mean, they're helping people and they're finding some sort of connection. I think it's a lot about that. Like you've connected and you find that what your advice now was to everyone, you can tell it again. I want you to put it again out there because I think it's really solid, good stuff. I mean, don't let boundaries. Boundaries is so important.
Yeah,
Keeping people away, set your distance from people that are taking and
yeah.
not
Or
bringing
that
anything.
just in general, like energy vampires. You
That's what
don't
it is.
want that. You want I mean, and it doesn't mean that to be like cold or cruel to people who are in need or anything like that. No,
Of course not.
it means just know your limitations and you know try to do what you love, even if it's just this much every day, and you know just appreciate the moments. Like I try to stop, I really do try to stop and you know take a breath and look around me. I mean, I live in one of the most beautiful places on the planet,
Absolutely.
and I never have taken it for granted.
That's
I- you
that's
know, I,
another good one. Teachable
you know,
moment. Don't take it for granted. That's two big
yeah.
ones I got from you today.
Hey, I grew up on Revere Beach, and everybody's like, "Oh, Revere Beach." I say, "Are you kidding
I
me?"
know, right?
I spent every day in the water. I
Ugh.
was, I was the happy. We were 2.5 blocks from the beach most of growing up. Just on my mother's day off, we'd go, and she would be on her little chair, and I would be playing in the sand. She'd take a nap, and I'd be just like the happiest kid alive. And
Uh,
I can still do that. I could still go and sit on the beach and be the happiest person alive. But I also I get to play music with people I love. I mean, I
what
have
more could you
no
ask for?
business. Yeah.
No, more really not much. I mean,
Yeah.
if your plate's full of those delectable items, I think you're having a good dinner of life,
Yeah.
good banquet.
Right? Yeah.
It's really sweet.
Yeah.
I grew up in Beachmont,
Mm-hmm.
so you were in Beachmont, if I'm not mistaken. Which one, Bellingham?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Oh
So
no, I didn't live in no, Steve Smith lived in Bellingham, man. I
where'd
lived
you live?
I lived right off of Shirley Ave on Dana Street, and
Oh,
then
because that was his
Florence.
house that had the piano in it.
Oh no, well, I don't know if he had a piano. I don't remember if he had a piano, but I lived near where Kim lives, up on the hill near Liberty
Yeah,
School,
I
and
was at your
then
house. There was a
yeah.
party there once, and
Oh yes. Did my father come out with a trombone and make everybody laugh?
probably I think maybe yeah. I remember going into that place, going in and seeing this beautiful grand piano,
Mm,
and
yeah, that was my aunts on my father's side, and sadly we don't have it anymore. I had to trade it for another month of my parents living in that house because their apartment at the Satter house wasn't ready. So
uh,
I was like, can they stay another month if do you want the piano? I was like, oh,
that
but it
that
was,
was that was a
it's,
deal for them.
yeah, yeah, they were a sweet family. But anyway, yeah, that was the only house my mother or father had ever lived in.
It
So
was a
they had
beautiful
it for
place.
about 15 years, and
It reeked of art, like music and art, just
yeah.
art. I remember going, I don't know what, I don't know, I don't wanna give too much credit to anybody else, but I remember passing out with somebody and then going downstairs in the morning in the break of dawn and seeing that there. And I sat down, I started fooling around with the keys and then maybe playing Imagine or some, I don't even think Imagine was written
Oh,
yet, but I
no.
started
That's
fooling around on some of the keys because I used to love to tinker. And I just felt that just sitting there, I remember walking home after that. I don't know how I got home. I might have drove, but, but I do remember knowing that I was going to be a musician for the rest of my life. And I think we are still in high school at the time. So I didn't
yeah.
know it. I mean, I'd been playing weekends. We'd be going out every weekend playing, but I didn't know I was going to do that the rest of my life. But I think there was something transformative about being in your house,
I
just being
love
there.
that.
Yeah, the
I
vibe.
wish I had had that, you know, I had, I kind of had a different, everyone in my family played, but, my father kind of instilled, because my father was in show business. He was a comic in a trio, and he toured for like 15 years before I was born. And
Mm.
he had his heart broken by that because TV came in and nightclubs went away. And that was his era, not like vaudeville or anything. It was nightclubs, like
Yep. Floor shows.
post-war up until early 50s.
That's when
And that
they called it a floor show, right? Did you hear that
kind of,
one?
yeah, it was like a floor show, but it was like, he played at the Martha Ray Club, and he played in Baltimore and Ocean City, up and down the East Coast. And
Those are
sometimes
pretty
in
big
Canada.
places. Those are larger.
Yeah, he played with like Orson Bean and Maury Amsterdam and Martha Ray and Crosby. I can't remember his first name. It's not Bing. He was a comedian like
Norm,
Norm
Norm,
Crosby. Yeah.
Norm, screw up the English language, Crosby, that one. He
M-
had the
Uh,
malapropism.
malapropisms. Yeah.
I can't
Yeah.
get that word.
Malapropism.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Wasn't that him?
yeah, that was
One
him.
of his shticks, anyway.
Yeah. And so my father was with two of his best friends that he grew up with in Revere, and they went on tour. You know, they started playing on the beach and in Boston, and then they toured. But, you know, when I was born in 1956, he was driving a cab because it was over. There was
Yeah, already.
nightclubs were
Right.
just done for
Yeah.
that kind of entertainment. And so his words of wisdom were, don't leave your day job.
Yep. Yep.
That
Yep.
means it was like the idea, my sister and I are both terrified of that idea of a day job because she was a dancer. It was like, I'm not going to work in an office, I'm pretty sure. But I mean, of course I did as a typesetter, but that was freelance and on my terms until it was gone,
A
which is
side hustle, we call them. The kids call
side
them
hustle.
today.
Oh, well, I guess I did I did a lot of that. I did waitressing and I worked in a factory. I worked in a a paper book packing plant. I'd go home with like paper flea bites. It was really fun. I drove an ice cream truck. I drove Sonny's ice cream truck. Sonny's in Revere. It was
Oh, wow. Okay.
gross. And I have some wicked stories about that too. I don't know if it's appropriate for
Samantha, you
Me too.
was talking about maybe even getting more into theater.
Well, I can maybe this much relate to what you're saying about your dad and his nightclub life, where my passion is theater, and I have a lot of training in theater, and it is a little bit dying. And I just can't really get into auditioning for TV, commercial, and film in the same way,
Oh, I
unless it's like a
know.
deeply cool,
Yeah,
artful indie project. But yeah, theater is my thing, and it's kind of like poetry. It's like all these things
yeah,
are dwindling a little bit, and I'm trying to find my footing and stuff.
yeah. Just grab hold because
Yeah,
theater's never going to go away.
you know.
You
Okay.
know, on any level. It was here thousands of years before
Right,
us.
right.
You know, and that's what I got my degree in was theater, you know, and
Me too.
even though
Yeah.
but I was just
Yeah,
I
so does
was the
Samantha.
pianist, you know.
Yeah.
And I played lots of Bertolt Brecht, Kurt Weill music. That was my passion, and Stephen Sondheim, and you
Yeah.
know all the old musicals, of course, because I
Yeah.
knew all that music from my aunts singing. They played piano and sang, and played bar mitzvahs and parties and stuff. And you know, we were the kids, you know, all of the grandchildren, all 10 of us, it's 7 of us played the piano and we had to play every time we got together, each one of us, ding, 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 ding. And I was the youngest. So I was like nauseous until I got it over with. I hated playing like in front of people. It was just like, it's so funny because now everything I do is in front of people.
Mm.
But you know, and after we were done playing, my aunts would do their shtick and for the whole, just for the family. And then my dad would come out with his old trombone. It was like what part of the comedy shtick he used to do. He'd come
Right.
out and the
I
trombone
remember
case
now.
would open.
I remember he did
Hold on, I
that.
want to hear the shtick. I want to hear the shtick. What it
Go
would.
So
ahead.
he would
Sorry,
come
brought it
out and
back.
his trombone case would open up and all the pieces would fall out and he'd pick them up and put them back together. And you know, he'd pull the slide in, and it would be like he'd hurt his tooth.
Yeah.
And he'd order my aunt to play "When the Saints Come Marching in B flat, and he would he would play it, but so on purpose badly that you were like the whole room was just rolling. I have never laughed like that. I thought my aunts would have heart attacks every Sunday because he he just killed. It didn't matter how many times you saw it. there's something about the sound of that giant, elephant fart
Right,
of a
right.
trombone being played slightly off key. And of course, my dad was a funny man. He made faces, and he was just he was wonderful. I miss
Well,
him.
I saw my uncle play at the Ebb Tide, and he
Oh my
played,
God.
yeah, and he played vibes, and he played, I'm dedicating this one to my nephew Vernon. Sitting there with my long hair,
Yeah.
and he played it, and it was Danny Boy on the vibes, jazz style. And
Wow.
I was crying, literally wept.
I
I never heard
understand.
music that beautiful. I mean, it was just blew me away. But
Yeah.
anyway, he's gone now, but as all those old folks are, but he's still with us.
Yeah.
They're probably the ones in the
Kicking our
blue.
asses.
They're the ones out in the blue that are doing this shit.
Yeah, right? That's
You
what I
know,
mean. They're like, don't give up.
right? Here's a hit, and they make these little serendipitous things happen. I wonder,
Maybe.
that's a generally not brought up a lot, but that could be why. I don't know.
Oh, I think about those things. Like, I think Eileen, my late partner, sent Debbie to me. She
See,
wanted me to have a nice Jewish girl, so I got one.
that's
Like,
amazing. That's
I
a
I was
mean,
beautiful
thinking about
thing.
what maybe Eileen was doing.
yeah,
That
Her.
it's
sounds
like,
like I feel that vibe almost instantly as being,
she
oh yeah,
didn't want me to be
definitely.
alone, and
Yeah,
um, we had been together for a long time, and my standards are pretty high with having had somebody like Eileen in my life. And Debbie,
yeah,
I mean, I resisted for a while because I just wasn't sure if I wanted to have the whole thing again. It's like
right.
I'd already had three major relationships in my life, but Eileen was, the one. But Debbie is amazing, and I'm so grateful.
You are very blessed, and definitely the blue is favoring you. And I think it favors anybody who makes them into teaching moments. I
Yeah.
think that's what makes the out of the blue stuff actually happen. Because when
Yeah.
we take it and turn it into a teachable moment,
Something positive. Yeah.
yeah, then they start giving us more.
Yeah.
And
Or
might
you're
be
just open. You're open. That's the other thing
it opens you
is
up.
is having to be. Well, I mean, I just spent the weekend with a lot of family members I had never met. It was my oldest cousin's 75th birthday. And one of the kids I mean, there's a lot of artists in this, dancers, musicians, writers.
Right.
And one of them, I can feel she's struggling, but she just, I had a long talk with her. My cousins, like because my sister's a dancer, my other cousin's a dancer, and everybody kind of glommed on and said, no, you just, because she thinks she's supposed to have figured this all out, like
Right.
how to be, be what she wants to be already. I mean, it's all a process. I said, the minute you think like that'll last for a little while, but you might want something else too, and you have to be open to that.
I love it.
You just have to go, okay, if it's what's next, and it does reveal itself to you, if you're open to it, like that turn on a dime when Karen said, I should have played bass. Oh my God,
But you
why
had to be
didn't
open to it.
I think of that? But
Wow.
yeah,
Well, that's wonderful stuff, and I just want to say, as we get close to wrapping up, I would have to say that life itself is the kind of thing that, let's face it, life is out of the blue. I mean, we don't know how we got here. You don't know how you got your family. I don't know how I got my family, but we got them.
yep,
And it's amazing to look at it. And I think that's a wonderful thing when you can be grateful for everything that's happened. You would look at them as teachable moments. I
yeah,
love that. I love that you said that, brought that out today. That people that look at it like a teachable moment are the ones that are going to learn from it and not cave to it.
yeah,
They're going to learn something and make their life more better.
better,
Get more appreciative. You increase your level of appreciation. And you
yeah.
think, what does that mean? I mean, what does appreciate mean? You say a diamond ring appreciates. It means it's worth more money. So when you
Hmm.
appreciate something, it's more valuable as you
Oh, that's
appreciate,
interesting. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's what I think I've learned today
That's
from
my
talking to you.
teachable moment.
Well,
I just got today from you.
It inspired me to think of that because I mean that's what it is all about. I looked for this today. When I got up this morning, I said, you know, as non-responsive as my toes are, I'm gonna have a teachable moment later, and I didn't
Yeah.
think those words. I'm gonna have a special time later, and it's gonna make me uplift me. And so lo and behold, it did.
And
Mhm.
me too. I mean, first of all, I don't talk about this a whole lot. I mean,
That's
I
why we
do
do this because
with
once in a while you
somebody
gotta do it.
asks,
Yeah,
but
right.
then I
That's
feel
what it's
like
about.
I'm like
About that.
talking too much, and
No.
I also I feel like my thoughts. I feel like, you know, we need one of those Australian herding dogs kind of reels me in. Like,
You were fine. I mean, I
No, I was
loved
actually,
everywhere
that
you
was
went.
did I
beautiful.
make
Yeah.
any points at
Yeah.
all? Or did I
That was-
just ramble on?
I sometimes think that about myself, and I have my peers tell me it's not like how I'm thinking that about myself. Truly, that was a beautiful streamline of consciousness. So yeah, that was beautiful.
Before we say bye to everyone, thank you for joining us on this episode of Out of the Blue with the wonderful and lovely Susan Goldberg. Thank
A
you all.
legend.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you. Thanks
And
for asking me. And
Oh,
nice to meet you,
please. Thank you
Samantha.
so much. And
So
thank you,
great to meet you.
Samantha.
I can't wait to come to P-Town and see Scream Along with Billy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I got to tell you this joke.
Okay.
This guy has a band and he got him booked for New Year's Eve. He gets a call. They can't do it. They cancel. And it's got a week before New Year's Eve. You got to find him. Be calling every agent, everybody in town. Nobody's got anybody free. Finally, he gets one agent and says, I got somebody, but you ain't going to like them. No, I don't care if they'll come here and they're people and they play music. I want them. No, you're not going to like them. No, I want them. Send them. He does. He goes in there and these guys come in and they set up. They're all playing accordions. And he goes, oh my God, right? What are they going to do? And then they play. What do you think happens? The crowd loves it. They're phenomenal. They get everybody up dancing, everyone's screaming, Happy New Year, it's the best thing ever. So he goes up to the leader of the group as they're breaking down. He goes, you guys, I got to tell you, I'm surprised you were that good. I mean, I really had no idea accordions could be that good. But I'll tell you what, you're so good, I want to book you again for New Year's Eve next year. He goes, really? Awesome. Can we leave our equipment here?
No. Perfect. That's really good. That's so to the point.
Yeah.
I mean,
We'll have to leave it there before we melt. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us on it, but we're going to keep all that. I haven't
that's
told
a
that joke.
great joke. I
haven't
can't
thought
wait
of
to
it for a
tell it.
while. Well, thank you again, Susan. I can't thank you enough. It really was wonderful. Out of the Blue, the podcast, hosted by me, Vernon West, co-hosted by Samantha West, edited by Joe Gallo, music and logo by Vernon West III. Have an Out of the Blue story of your own you'd like to share? Reach us at info@outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. Subscribe to Out of the Blue on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, and on our website, outoftheblue-thepodcast.org. You can also check us out on Patreon for exclusive content.